Convincing Star Trek theory explains why Tom Paris is still a lieutenant after Voyager. When Star Trek Voyager ended in 2001, Tom Paris seemed like a man finally ready to claim his redemption. He had gone from a disgraced pilot court-martialed by Starfleet to a war hero who helped guide Voyager home from the Delta Quadrant. Yet when Star Trek Prodigy reintroduced him more than 2 decades later, fans were stunned to learn that Paris was still a lieutenant, not a commander, not even a lieutenant commander. For a character who risked his life countless times, it's baffling. Why would one of Voyager's most loyal officers still be stuck at the same rank he had at the start of his Delta Quadrant journey? A new fan theory, however, offers a surprisingly convincing explanation, one that ties together Starfleet politics, Paris's criminal past, and even the nature of post-war Starfleet itself. A quick refresher: Tom Paris's wild Starfleet journey. Before diving into the theory, it's worth remembering just how turbulent Tom Paris's Starfleet career has been. He wasn't exactly born for stability. The son of Admiral Owen Paris, Tom entered Starfleet Academy with enormous expectations, but his early years were defined by rebellion, arrogance, and a desperate need for validation. After a shuttle accident that killed 3 officers, Paris falsified reports and was expelled. Later, he joined the Maquis, only to be caught and imprisoned. He had officially hit rock bottom. Captain Janeway's decision to recruit him from a penal colony for Voyager's mission changed everything. In the Delta Quadrant, Paris became one of the ship's most capable officers and pilots. He was instrumental in countless crises, designed shuttles like the Delta Flyer, and even married B'Elanna Torres. When Voyager finally returned to Earth, it seemed like he was due for a clean slate and maybe a promotion. So why didn't he get one? Theory #1. Paris's reinstatement was always probationary. The most grounded explanation is also the most bureaucratic. When Janeway recruited Paris, his commission wasn't restored in the typical sense. It was more of a conditional reinstatement, a limited-term probationary role where he served at her discretion. Starfleet may have allowed Janeway to reinstate him as a lieutenant for practical reasons during the mission, but that didn't necessarily mean his full record was expunged. Once Voyager returned to Earth, his service might have been reviewed, and his reinstatement could have expired. Think of it like this: Janeway's captaincy gave her a long leash in the Delta Quadrant, no oversight, no admiralty breathing down her neck. But once they were back in Federation space, those same Starfleet regulations she'd been able to bend came snapping back. Even if Starfleet recognized Paris's heroism, his official record still included insubordination, falsification of duty logs, desertion, and aiding an enemy faction. That kind of background doesn't disappear overnight, even with commendations. The most realistic outcome? Paris's reinstatement was made permanent, but the probationary nature of it capped his career advancement. Essentially, Starfleet said, "Welcome back, Lieutenant Paris. You're forgiven, but not forgotten." Theory #2. Paris declined promotion on purpose. If there's one thing Paris learned in the Delta Quadrant, it's that rank doesn't always equal freedom. He spent 7 years rediscovering himself not as a soldier, but as a pilot, mechanic, and explorer. After Voyager, it's entirely plausible that Paris simply didn't want a command position. He's not the only Starfleet officer to turn down promotion. Montgomery Scott famously refused to leave engineering for the command chair, and even Riker spent years as a first officer before taking a captaincy on his own terms. Paris's interests after Voyager were clear. He wanted to build shuttles, design small craft, and spend time with his family. In Prodigy, it's hinted that he remained active as a pilot and instructor, roles that don't require command-level rank. He even created Captain Proton, a holodeck hero inspired by pulp serials. That says a lot about his mindset. He values creativity, not careerism. So maybe Tom Paris could have been promoted, but chose not to. In fact, Prodigy's portrayal of him as a mentor figure rather than a bureaucrat supports this. He's living the life he wants, not the one his father wanted. For someone who spent years trapped in a hierarchy that judged him, freedom might matter more than stripes on his uniform. Theory #3. Starfleet's post-war rank freeze and scandals. Here's where things get juicy and deeply political. The Federation's post-Dominion War restructuring could easily explain why someone like Paris remained stalled. When Voyager returned home, Starfleet was still recovering from the largest conflict in its history. The Dominion War devastated resources, destroyed hundreds of ships, and exposed massive security failures. After the war, Starfleet underwent major internal reforms to prevent corruption and limit reckless behavior from officers who'd become too independent during wartime. Janeway's Voyager crew, while celebrated as heroes, also represented everything Starfleet Command wanted to avoid repeating: a single ship acting autonomously, defying orders, making first contact without oversight, and occasionally violating the Prime Directive. It's possible that after an initial parade of praise, Voyager's senior officers were quietly sidelined. Janeway's quick promotion to Admiral might even have been political, a way to put a leash on her by giving her a desk job. Paris, meanwhile, was a convenient example for Starfleet to keep as is, a loyal but flawed officer, symbolizing the dangers of unchecked individuality. Keeping him at lieutenant rank sent a subtle message: redemption has limits. Starfleet's upper brass might have believed that promoting Paris, an ex-convict who served time for treason, would look bad on paper. So, while others like Harry Kim were given opportunities to rise, Paris's case may have been too controversial. Ironically, that decision may have backfired, making him one of Starfleet's most relatable figures. Theory #4. The Shadow of Admiral Owen Paris. There's a more personal angle to consider, one rooted in family. Admiral Owen Paris was one of the most respected officers in Starfleet Command. He endured public shame when his son was expelled and imprisoned, and Janeway's decision to recruit Tom wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal for the elder Paris. When Voyager returned, Tom's relationship with his father was complicated but mended. Still, if Owen Paris remained in a high-ranking position after the war, that could have created a conflict of interest. Starfleet might have decided it was best to limit Tom's promotion options to avoid accusations of nepotism or favoritism. After all, promoting the Admiral's son right after he came back from a 7-year odyssey could have raised eyebrows. Tom Paris may have quietly remained a lieutenant not because he wasn't capable, but because it was politically cleaner that way. Theory #5. Prodigy's Paris is not on the command track. The simplest explanation may be hidden in plain sight. By the time we see Paris in Star Trek Prodigy, he's serving as a pilot and instructor, not a starship commander. Starfleet, like any large organization, has multiple career paths. Some officers move up the command chain, while others specialize in technical or instructional roles. Paris likely fell into the latter. His deep experience as a pilot of both Federation and alien vessels made him a perfect candidate to train cadets and junior officers. And if Prodigy's timeline places him in such a position, rank may not even matter much. Instructors often remain at lieutenant or lieutenant commander ranks indefinitely. Paris's passion for flight simulation and hands-on work would align perfectly with that lifestyle. He's not being punished, he's just doing the job he was born for. How each theory reflects Paris's.